This interview is for information only and should not be considered as investment advice or a recommendation to buy shares in the company featured. Welcome to this Stockbox interview. On Stockbox today, we're talking about a subject that has come into the focus more in recent years with both individuals and governments around the world, as that is the medicinal cannabis space. Now, Melissa Sturgess, the CEO of Ananda Developments, which is a company with 3 projects in medicinal cannabis, joins us today. So, hello, Melissa, how are you?
Hi, Mark. Yeah, very well, thanks. Good to see you.
Yes, it's good to be talking to you. It's the very first time we've spoken. It's the first time we've actually interviewed a company in the medicinal cannabis space. So looking forward to hearing what you're all about. So Ananda Developments then, you're involved in growing the cannabis plant and in the end product as well. So can you give us an overview of the company and the project?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So we listed Ananda in 2019 on the Aquis Exchange because at the time it was the only exchange in London that was really welcoming to medicinal cannabis companies. And we really thought we were at the beginning of the boom of this space. We'd seen incredible growth in equity capital markets in Canada and Australia. And I think with the change in legalization of medicinal cannabis in 2018, when the little boy Alfie Dingley, whose mother Hannah Deacon has actually become quite a good friend of mine and is a strong advocate for medicinal cannabis. But he got the first license to use medicinal cannabis in the UK, and that triggered the change in the law. And we all expected that we would then quickly see a sort of a move towards interest in the space in capital markets, and it really didn't come as we all expected. So having said that, we'd listed this little vehicle. Mostly the initial funding had come from the directors of the company and the major shareholders. So we thought, well, we believe this sector is here for the long term, so we're going to plug away. We initially made 2 small investments initially. The first one was in a company in Israel called ICANN, which is a platform for medicinal cannabis conferences and has been an incredible source of helping us build our intellectual capital in the space. So the directors of the company have made many, many trips to Israel. We really believe that is the heart of medicinal cannabis research in the UK. And so we made a small investment in them really to maintain our access to the leading edge thinking in what was happening in medicinal cannabis. We also made a small investment in a company called Liberty Herbal Technologies, which the guys there have developed sort of like a little tea bag, which contains a measured dose of cannabis, medicinal cannabis flower. We really like the guys and the team. We really like the team because they come out of British American Tobacco. So they have a very strong understanding of strict regulatory environments, obviously, tobacco being one of the most highly regulated industries in the world. So we've backed them in the development of this vaping technology, dry herb vaping technology. And they started rolling that out in Italy early last year, had a few false starts, obviously, because of COVID, had set them back a little bit, but they're now looking further afield into the US, which is a very strong market for medicinal cannabis and the sort of less highly regulated CBD space. And then we consider our sort of major initiative is our application to grow plus 0.2% THC cannabis for research purposes. That application went into the Home Office in late 2019. Because of COVID, as with many businesses, we really had 11 months where nothing could happen because the Home Office needed to come and have a look at our proposed growing site, and they weren't able to make those site visits. So we've had a lull. We have been constantly engaged with the Home Office, answering lots of questions about our research proposals and the conditions in which we plan to grow our medicinal cannabis for research. And probably from our perspective, the most important part of this application are the partners that we're making the application with. I think generally, if you've been following the medicinal cannabis space, there's probably a view that that maybe growing becomes commoditized and it's a bit of a race to the bottom. We've really watched the market very carefully, and we think, and actually it's been borne out, that there's a real underestimation of the science and the discipline that is really involved in growing very high quality cannabis that can be used effectively for medicinal purposes. So the partners we are working with are a group of guys the two companies closely aligned, Anglia Salads and Jepco, and they held a license from the Home Office to grow medicinal cannabis from 2014 to 2017 because they grew medicinal cannabis for GW Pharmaceuticals trials. So they have, they estimate about £4 million of R&D has been spent already that they oversaw in this space. So they've got an incredible bank of knowledge about how to grow this plant properly, effectively, cost effectively, as well as qualitatively effectively, and with very, very high yields. So we're really taking that experience that they had with GW Pharmaceuticals, bolting that together with hopefully our capital markets experience and our sort of wider understanding of where we think medicinal cannabis is going to make this application. And that's really been the focus of our efforts over the last little while, and really where we're focused at the moment and in the near term.
Okay. And where are you at then with the Home Office approval?
So application went in October 2019, and since then it's been fairly intense. The dossier we put in is extensive. We have security advisors, we have technical advisors, geneticists, agronomists. We have a big suite of advisors, legal advisors, of course. So there's been a lot of questions from the Home Office about our plans, a lot of interrogation of our plans. It's a fairly, as you can imagine, a fairly intense process because we're dealing with the Misuse of Drugs Act. So actually, we're applying for a license to break the law, in if you want to sort of turn it around and look at it that way. So it's really been engaged with them, answering their questions and working through all the issues and the questions that they have raised over the last 12 months.
Okay.
So it's an ongoing process, and we just keep doing the right thing and have faith in our skill set, our intellectual capital, and the track record of our partners that this will move us in the right direction.
Okay. It is good to see that things are moving, particularly in the UK. I think an understanding has definitely started to come around. It's been, a lot of people have been using medicinal cannabis for many years, under the radar, let's say. But to see it finally sort of coming to the fore and being adopted by governments is a really, really good thing to see. And you alluded to it earlier then. I mean, the capital markets, there's not that many opportunities out there. But would you agree we're at the very beginning of this quite exciting growth space?
Yeah, I think we had the perfect storm was it January, February, when GW Pharmaceuticals was bought out by Jazz for $7.5 billion. We had the FCA come out and say, actually, we're sort of open for business. I think those things happened. We had Cannabo come to the market. We had MGC come to the market. We had Cellular Goods come to the market. So we've seen a few strong stories come to the capital markets. There's clearly increased interest. The number of patients in the medicinal cannabis space is now starting to grow, which is really quite interesting as well. And that was very much part of our thinking. Even in 2019, we felt that it was going to take a while to do the groundwork and get ourselves established. So we were taking a long-term view, which was, as we knew the market was a little way off for the UK. We'd seen it go quite nuts in other parts of the world. But if you look at other countries, as the industry has grown, it's been legalization, a couple of years of sort of nothing, while everyone gets themselves organized and the regulatory and legal environment sort of balances out and tightens up and becomes, more clarified. And then you start to see some growth. And we're now starting to see that. We're seeing doctors being educated, and we're seeing an increase in patient numbers, even the advisors that speak to us are telling us that even in January, we had 3,000 medical cannabis patients. It's not very many. We're now in April. We are told there are now 6,000 medical cannabis patients. So, that grows slowly. And then, we expect that curve to increase once we start to get some critical mass.
Okay.
And on that, I'll just add, I think also one of the things that concerned capital markets in the early stages was that the NHS came out and NICE came out, the National Institute of Clinical Excellence, came out and said, we can't really support this whole cannabis thing. We're not quite sure. They've now clarified some of their thinking just recently and said, well, we're not saying no. We understand that it's there and, it's interesting. They are encouraging research into particular indications, one of them being pain. So there is, as always in the UK, I know I have an Australian accent, but I'm a Brit. We're it's a conservative environment here, but it is one that is very much a global leader. So I really honestly believe that as this business and as this industry becomes more and more scientific, that we will see this sector grow, and therefore the capital markets have the opportunity to obviously want to look at a sector that is growing rapidly, as you pointed out, has actually been around for a very long time. So actually what we're taking is an industry, for want of a better word, that is really moving maybe from an illegal, unregulated space into a regulated environment. So it's not necessarily new, it's just transforming. And I think it's commonly accepted that this is an industry that's not going away. Yeah.
Good. Great. That's really good to hear. And you mentioned earlier then on the Aquis exchange, and that's where you trade on the Aquis exchange. And it looks like recently a lot more broker platforms are embracing that exchange, which is good because obviously it gives investors access to stocks that trade there. Was there a specific reason why you chose that exchange?
Yeah, when we listed the company, it was the only exchange that would really welcome us. So,
Right.
So we didn't really have a choice. My experience and most of my history has been with AIM. So I understood AIM, but AIM had not approved any medical cannabis or wellness CBD companies as such. There were a couple of companies that had transformed but were already quoted. So they were the only exchange that welcomed us. And we really wanted a quoted platform because we are operating in a highly regulated industry. And so what we wanted to do was ensure that our corporate governance and our internal protocols and controls were of an exemplary standard. And really the way to self-manage, if you like, or to give yourself that discipline is to be a quoted company, because then you have to meet corporate governance codes. You're always, your auditors are always on your case, making sure that you're doing everything legally and properly. So we felt that even though, yes, we could go private, we wanted the quoted platform. And yeah, it's been really interesting recently because we've always said that Aquis is the right exchange for us as a small company. If we get this license granted from the Home Office, that we would instigate a change probably to the standard list. The feedback we're starting to get from some shareholders is that actually Aquis, as you've said, there are more brokers now trading on Aquis. I think the online trading is definitely becoming easier. Certainly in our stock more recently, we're seeing liquidity. So it's something that we monitor on a very regular basis. So we'll be guided, hopefully at the right time, by our own internal assessments and obviously by the voice of our shareholders, whose company it is, as to whether it's appropriate to make the move or not. I mean, all these things have a cost, so it's always, what's the best use of your balance sheet. Yeah.
Of course. Okay, thank you for that. And just a final thought then, Melissa, what's the roadmap then for Ananda going forward? What are the plans?
Yeah. So at the moment, it's heads down and work with the Home Office and be diligent about our approach to our license application and the questions that come from that. And, and we hope that we are successful in that. So that's really our number one objective. In terms of other investments. We are an investing company, but, we want to stay focused because these things do need a lot of attention. So at the moment, we're comfortable with the investments that we have, and what we really want to do is make sure we're well funded to do the things that we're already doing. So that's really a priority at the moment. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Melissa Sturgess, the CEO of Ananda Developments, thank you very much for your time today coming on and giving us a bit of an introduction to the company and the projects you're involved with. And I look forward to keeping track with the story and talking to you again soon.
Thanks, Mark. Great to talk to you.
Thank you for listening to this Stockbox interview. For more information, interviews and videos, visit our website at stockboxmedia.com or give us a follow on Twitter by searching @StockboxMedia.